The Socratic Method. Socrates was a Greek philosopher who is considered to be the father of Western philosophy. His most significant contribution to Western society was a philosophical device known as the Socratic Method. This method of cross-examination investigates one's own beliefs in order to establish the validity of one's own beliefs. In other words, a hypothesis is established, but is broken down by establishing any contradictions inherent within that hypothesis, thus attempting to invalidate that hypothesis. And Christ was the master of the Socratic method. For the first step of this method was to examine a hypothesis which may be considered a falsehood. And at that time Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples became hungry and began to pick the heads of grain and eat. But when the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples do what is not lawful to do on a Sabbath." Matthew 12:1. And the second step of this method is for the examiner to establish the premises upon which both parties agree. For as the Lord established with the Pharisees, "Have you not read what David did when he became hungry? He and his companions, how he entered the house of God, and they ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those with him, but for the priests alone." Matthew 12:3. Or have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple break the Sabbath and are innocent? Matthew 12:5. And the final step of this method is to illustrate that these premises are inconsistent with the original hypothesis, and to thus conclude that the original hypothesis must be false. But I say to you that something greater than the temple is here. But if you had known what this means, "I desire compassion and not a sacrifice," you would not have condemned the innocent. Matthew 12:6. Thus the Socratic philosophy was correctly founded upon the premise that each man must recognize his ignorance before he can establish the truth. For Socrates once said, "Virtue was the most valuable of all possessions. The ideal life was spent in search of the good. Truth lies beneath the shadow of existence, and it is the job of a philosopher to show the rest how little they really know." And the constitution of a servant of Christ should be the same. For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, "I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent." Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through wisdom did not know God, it pleased God through the foolishness of the message preached to save those who believe. For Jews request a sign, and Greeks seek after wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified, to the Jews a stumbling block, and to the Greeks foolishness. But to those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. 1 Corinthians 1:18.